to start with the biggest news. If you're big football fan, Jared Goff and Matthew Stafford have been swapped with a couple of extra picks along the way.
Right.
Jared Goff going to the Detroit Lions. I believe it's a second-round pick also for next year, for this coming draft, and then 2 first-round picks. In exchange, the Rams do get Matthew Stafford. And, there was a lot of rumors kind of going through about the situation with Goff, and, there was also rumors of with Stafford in terms of, his long-term success with Detroit, which has been, I guess how I want to start this off, Dave, is what is your thoughts overall about the trade?
I think LA got hosed. I think Matthew Stafford still has, and by no means is he, I don't think I'd call him a top 10 quarterback, but he's a guy who, if given the weapons and the right schemes and right coaching, he can still ball, man. Mm-hmm. He has his games where he'll throw 4 picks, but those are far and few between from what I've seen. He still has, I think, a few years left in the tank. So given that, I think he's going to be in a better situation in Detroit because they can give him the weapons. Mm-hmm. And their defense isn't that bad. I think they just need to stack their line again and maybe get another receiver in the draft because it's looking like they might not hold on to Galloway. Mm-hmm. But I think, strategically, it's a swap. It's a quarterback for a quarterback, and like you said, picks, but the conditional picks are you're not going to know the value of them right off the bat. Mm-hmm. So the trade is, in essence, almost, in theory, it's 1 for 1. Mm-hmm. And so you got to look at that. Is Goff good? Sure. Is Goff elite? Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. Is Stafford good? Yeah. Is he elite? Absolutely not. So I think it's, in a way, a very fair trade. Mm-hmm. But I think that I don't know how much faith I have in Goff. So that's kind of where Goff has been a guy, he's had Cooper Kupp, he's had, he's had some guys, mm-hmm. That he's had guys around him. So I think he has more to prove in Detroit than Sam does, or not Sam, than
Matthew Stafford.
Thank you.
Matthew Stafford.
I was thinking Sam Bradford.
You were thinking Sam Darnold, the Jets, weren't you?
That too, and that's a very different conversation.
We're going to get into that later.
Yes, we will. But no, I think Goff has a little more to prove, at least to me. And I know that sounds funny saying an NFL player has something to prove to me. Mm-hmm. Your average couch potato who's going to go home and play video games. But mm-hmm. my point is that I just think on the field he has more to prove to both himself and to the team that to Detroit. I also just don't know. I don't know how confident I am that he can pick up the slack.
Well, Dave, I think you said it very best when you asked if any of these quarterbacks are elite. And the answer to me is definitely no for both of them. Yeah. Now, if you're asking me which one is better, yeah, I would definitely say Stafford over his
longevity,
career.
Right.
Not so much the longevity, but the numbers he's put up.
Right.
The idea that in Detroit he's kind of been held back by some of the moves that management's made, but nevertheless, they've given him decent talent.
They have,
there.
Sure.
Calvin Johnson, Kenny Galladay, as you said.
DJ Swift emerged a little bit.
Exactly.
Adrian Peterson.
It wasn't like he was playing with a team full of scrubs. He had a lot of talent.
Sure.
And they got into the playoffs a few times.
Yep.
Never won the division, but
right.
granted, when you're playing against Aaron Rodgers, it's kind of hard to get to that point.
Yep. For sure.
But basically, I look at this, and basically the Rams, they're seeing tremendous value in Stafford that I guess I'm not seeing, and they're seeing that value by sending all these additional picks over.
Right.
They're basically the mentality of we're going to win the Super Bowl in the next, I don't know, 2 to 3 years maybe, because that's basically how long they're going to have to give up picks, top picks,
sure.
For this trade to go through. And they're basically betting in the next 2 to 3 years with Stafford kind of past, I won't say he's past his prime, he's on the end of it.
Yeah.
I believe he's going to be 32, 33 next year.
Which is wild to think that we're considering that old, but playing career, it is getting old.
Yeah.
But then we look at someone like Brady, who's a decade older than that, and he's playing his best ball.
Yeah, exactly. And
so it's crazy.
And so there's this belief, I guess, that Matthew Stafford can come in to where Goff was doing, and just elevate this team to a whole level. Now, obviously with Sean McVay, he's a very creative offensive genius. Maybe he's looking for someone who can, has a little more knowledge, I guess, about how creative offenses work. But, the thing about Stafford is that I never saw him as this, creative, out of the pocket kind of quarterback. I saw him as more of a,
and he's not.
He's more of like an Eli Manning or a
Yeah.
Peyton Manning, that kind of quarterback. So I'm very curious to see how that mixes
Yep.
in terms of a dynamic offense. The Rams this year were all about defense,
Right.
and and it's not like the Rams had a bad year. The thing about Jared Goff,
They lost to the Jets.
They lost to the
Let
Jets,
that
and
sink
I guess if you do that, then that kind of raises a flag or two. But as a Giants fan, I think about the NFC East, and I think about Philadelphia Eagles, and I think about what happened there with Carson Wentz.
And that's another story.
I think Carson Wentz was being looked at a very similar way to Jared Goff. But here's the difference, Dave. The LA Rams finished 11-5 this year.
Right.
Now, granted, they didn't win the division; they were a wild card.
Yep.
But keep in mind, they beat Seattle.
Yeah, twice I think.
In the in the wild card.
In the wild card, yeah.
And they were pretty much competitive with Green Bay. Green Bay eventually pulled away in that game, but they were there, and the defense has a lot to say about that. And then you keep in mind Jared Goff also was playing after thumb surgery, so he wasn't 100%. And so I look at this, and the only thing that comes to mind is the only knock against Goff is that was clearly some chemistry issues between the head coach and Goff. Because when I look at these two quarterbacks, talent to talent, I don't see this tremendous gap up going from Goff to Stafford.
Yeah.
And I think LA is taking a huge gamble here. We'll see if it pays off. Maybe, again, there could be something we're missing, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see.
Yeah, for sure. And I agree.
Mm-hmm.